So I reiterate here, the bill is dead.
The story of this great city is about the years before this night. We are free!
Are we on? Nice. Hi, everybody. It's a new episode of Hong Kong. I haven't started the timer. Here you go.
Oh, hey.
Timer. Oh, are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Yes, okay. We'll keep saying that.
Yes.
We are both, well, I am starstruck. We have the most famous comedian who has entered this room. Yeah, we're here. We're sitting with our, my buddy, Paul Taylor. You guys just met.
Yeah, we just met.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yes, so Vivek,
Yeah.
co-host, Paul Taylor, guest.
Hello.
You,
Yeah.
Vivek, you take over.
All right, so basically we have a guest for a change because we realized that Mohammed's story sucked.
Yeah.
And we needed a professional to keep this entertaining, so we decided to go big or go home.
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to just get like any comic from the Hong Kong scene. We're not going to get any comic from the Asian scene. We're going to get a comic from which scene?
The French one, weirdly.
French one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's from Siam Poon. All right, that's where it
Yes.
came from. All right, so we got Paul Taylor over here with us on the podcast. He came in a hot summer day in Hong Kong, and I always appreciate when I hear people say, "Oh man, this is hot," and I'm like, "You're enjoying this once in your lifetime, man."
No, this is not enjoying. I don't know how you deal with it. Well, you were born here, so you.
I was born, yeah. I
you've
didn't know
lived
there
through-
was
yeah,
I
you've
didn't know
lived-
there was a better weather.
I actually, I'm looking at the cameras now, and I think this is our 20 episode.
Yeah.
I
Is
think
it?
he might be the whitest guest we've ever had.
I'm wearing a white T-shirt.
Yeah.
I blend into this background perfectly.
Yeah.
I think, is he the whitest? Can you think of someone else whiter?
I believe he is, in fact, the whitest guest we've got.
Great.
In the fact that you are so white that you're not even from Hong Kong white. You're not from Asia white. You're literally from the white white.
I'm the OG white.
You're the OG white, yeah.
From the island that decided to colonize everyone.
Exactly.
So
We had a comedian in Shanghai, Byron Murphy. He's Irish.
Okay.
And he would go up and say like, "Hey, I'm Irish," in case you can't tell by me getting sunburned by these
by the lights.
right now.
Exactly, right there, right
Yeah,
there.
it's either that or getting sunburned by the moonlight. You're like,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
Yeah, the typical one. Something sunburning you, man.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
your
basically.
t-shirt sunburning.
Or
right
just
there,
being
yeah.
translucent.
Exactly, yeah, just glow in the dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you're back after. A quick backstory. Paul, stand-up comedian based in Paris, and we met in 2017.
Yes.
When you were doing an Asia tour.
Yep.
In with a show called Franglais.
Yes.
Explain to the audience why Franglais.
Yeah, so I started doing comedy in 2013 and based in Paris. I've been there for 16 years. And like in France, the way the stand-up thing or the stand-up sort of scene works is
Yeah.
it's very difficult to do like to earn a living by just doing like 10, 20-minute gigs. It's better now. Because there are more comedy clubs that have opened, but before you had to like write an hour show and then tour
and
that show.
That's it. You start from 0 to 1 hour.
Well, you can do like 10 minutes, but you're not really getting paid for it.
okay,
But
that's
then
just-
you jump basically from like 10, 15 minutes to 1 hour. Like there's
Oh.
no way you can do. Sometimes you'll do 30 minutes. Like if me and you were like,
Yeah.
great, let's work on a show together.
half together.
We
like
do
that.
half. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
half.
but the
Split
show has
bill,
to be an
yeah.
hour itself. Right,
Yeah,
to make
exactly.
it-
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started putting together like this hour show, and I realized that some of the jokes would work in English, or they would need to be said in English. Some of them in French, and some of them you kind of needed to understand both languages to understand like
the nuance between them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the play on words or whatever
Yeah.
it was. So when I was putting together my hour, I was like, well, I can do an hour if it's bilingual. I don't
Yeah.
have enough to just
For
do 1
1
hour
hour.
in
Yeah.
English or 1
Or
hour in
French.
French.
But you decided against getting someone else to fill the extra time. You're like, how can I double my money by cutting my cost in half?
Yeah, I want it to be all about me. It's
Exactly,
all
yeah.
about me.
Exactly.
Fuck everyone else. And so I had a friend of mine called Sebastian, and he is an American in France, and sort of similar vibe. But he had a show fully in French and then a show fully in English. The show was maybe like 80% the same.
Oh, okay. So he does do that.
yeah,
bilingual thing.
but
You
Yeah.
guys, you guys have that in common because
'cause
he
I do
obviously
yeah.
performs in Cantonese
And also in
100%
And also in English,
as well.
Yeah. I could do like I've done my solo show in English and also a solo in Cantonese.
No, right.
Yeah.
And what percentage of it is the
So
same?
I find nowadays I try to write all my jokes bilingually, so that
Cool.
they can work in either language. But what I found is initially when I first started, there were maybe 50% at most could be used in both languages. half of it. So like the same bit, I would write some stuff. I'm like, yeah, this only flies in Cantonese, for example. Like when I would talk about how I go to a restaurant here and people would respond to me like, oh, he speaks Cantonese in Cantonese. The joke is of how. So the joke is this, okay? It's in Cantonese, but I'll translate to English. So like I'm sitting over there in a typical Chinese restaurant. I sit down, and very common in Hong Kong because space is precious. You have to share tables, right? So I have a couple sitting opposite me, and I sit down and I call the waiter in Cantonese. Wait, game, go yeah. I speak in Cantonese, and the girlfriend's like, whoa, he speaks Cantonese, right?
Right.
And then the boyfriend's like, shh, if he speaks it, he understands it. So that I found a way to translate to English.
Yeah.
But initially I couldn't find the way to say it. Because in Cantonese, it's like such a straight can understand. It's such a direct word that's like I get the joke immediately. With the English, like if you can speak it, you can understand it. You're like, understand. Oh, I see what you did over there.
You know what's throwing me off though is like what I'm really enjoying, because we only spoke like for 5 seconds before, is that you've got like the Hong Kong accent when you speak English.
Yeah. I can.
You don't have the Hong Kong face.
I don't.
I love
exactly.
it. It's really
that makes me so happy because he thinks he doesn't have an accent.
No, I have the Hong Kong taught English accent.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I've met people from Hong Kong, but who are Asian descent.
Looking,
And so, I'm like, oh, you sound like, because I can discern between Hong Kong and Singapore. Like,
Singapore's got definitely.
You know what I mean? But if like the normal English person or anyone in Europe who hasn't met anyone from those countries would just be like, oh, it's Asian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's really funny because it reminds me of a story of a French friend of mine her parents are Chinese, moved over to France, and she was born in France, grew up in France, speaks French with a French accent, obviously, but also speaks English with a French accent.
Yes.
And when she did she went to Manchester in the UK to study.
Yeah.
And she was telling me that the people over there, they just didn't
believe her.
They couldn't process the fact that she was Asian looking.
Yeah.
But was speaking English like this. Hello, how are you?
Actually, I will tell you a story about someone you know, Bon Aimin.
Oh yeah,
so
you know him.
He came to do the French shows in Shanghai years ago. And he barely speaks English.
No,
so it's actually worse because Bon Aimin is a Vietnamese French comedian.
Yeah.
And he obviously speaks fluent French. Also very, very, very quick. Like I understand French. I couldn't understand anything he's saying. But then his English is really bad and he has an Asian face. So that's even more coming because the bits of English he knows is really like stereotypical, like it took like this.
Hello, how
but
are
we're
you?
in Shanghai and it's like, oh man, it's not good.
People look at him, man. The French really took over Vietnam, man. Really, really did a number on you, man.
Between I'm like full the most hated person. I'm like English living in France, the two countries that have fucked the entire rest of the world. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man.
Well, actually, I want to go back to for people who don't know you. Like, why do you speak fluent French?
So I studied French. I started learning French when I was 5 when I lived in France when I was
why
a
did
kid.
You live in France?
My dad got a job in a bank in Geneva in Switzerland, so we lived across the border in France. And so for those sort of 4 years that I was there, I was at like an international school. French and English speaking, but then also because my mum's from Northern Ireland and my dad is from the north of England, and I was in like this American international school, but we were living in a French speaking country. I had like all of these different accents going around. So
are you what they call the TC, like the third culture kid? Would you identify as one?
Like you didn't fit in the culture that you were living in, but then you also kind of fit in as in you identify with that culture, but you were not from that culture. Like I live in Hong Kong, I identify myself as a Hong Konger, but I just am not a Hong Konger as per se.
Yeah.
But you're also not a third culture kid. Third culture, like your parents have to be from two separate places and you're born in a third place.
Well, technically, my dad was from hell, so you know, I mean, technically, you know, right over there. So I believe it's a very separate place.
Yes, his dad is the actual Satan.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like,
well, your dad, where is he from? You said
the north of England.
Oh, okay. So no, that makes them the same. Like they're English.
Yeah, they're well,
That's where the Chinese border helps. You know, when you're technically from the same kind of landish, but you can say no, I'm two different places.
Yes.
Like Northern English, kind of like we identify with the Southern English.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're still English.
But they got the same passport. So
exactly.
And my mum from Northern Ireland, a completely different sort of thing. But it's European. Ultimately, like fucking Europeans are the same.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So you grew up basically learning English and French.
And then
level, pretty much.
And then I studied it throughout school, throughout my university degrees in French and Spanish, and then I've been there for the last 15 years as well. Wife's French, so everything My whole life is in French, basically.
And you used to work for Apple.
I did, yeah. I worked for like 10 years for Apple.
Yeah. Is that something that it's not a secret? You just posted about it.
Yeah.
Obviously,
No,
it's part of your act as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So yeah, like, how did you end up in Apple?
It was like a part-time student job. So when I was at university,
For 10 years.
well, it started as a part-time student job. Like,
it would be funny if you just continue to be
10
school.
years fucking learning French. That's how long it takes to learn a language. It's 10 years. So I was at university in London, and in order to like pay for beers and whatever, I started working like part-time at the Apple store. The big Apple store there in Regent Street, and then did that for a few years while I was at university. I did a year abroad while I was at university, so I had to go to Canada for 8 months because it's a French-speaking. Like, I went to the French-speaking part of Canada to Québécois, yes, to try and improve my French there. And I was still working at Apple. Then went to Sydney for like 5 months. Worked at Apple there, moved back to the UK, and then
sold your soul to Apple, eh?
Yeah, basically. Okay. And then when I finished my degree in 2009, they announced that they were opening Apple in France. So I moved to France,
and you were like, "It's inevitable.
Yeah,
I have to now."
Yeah, exactly. So I moved to Apple with France, and then that was around the time.
Wait. So Apple moved you to France. You didn't move to France and happen to work at Apple.
No, they didn't move me there. I moved myself there, but I went there because of Apple. So
when you were in Sydney working at Apple, and you found out that France is opening an Apple store, and you requested in the office, you're like, "Hey, just want to say, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Je voudrais un iPhone, s'il vous plaît.
S'il vous plaît, you know.
Le MacBook, le iTunes.
Yeah, exactly. à la Paris.
Je voudrais le MacBook.
Le croissant, s'il vous plaît. So, I was in Sydney, but I moved back to the UK to finish my last year of my university, and it was while I was in that last year that they announced that they were opening stores in France.
So were you working at Apple in the UK when you were studying? Okay. So you were still with them?
Yeah. I was still with them.
So you're full time, obviously.
No, this was all still part time because I was doing my degree still. Okay. So it was I was working maybe, I don't know.
No. When we say full time part, we don't mean like the amount of effort you put in. We're literally asking like the job criteria.
Yeah, it was like part time.
It's part time.
But then when I finished my degree, I was like, cool. I'm enjoying working for the company. Yeah. So I'll move to France and then move into like a full time.
Are you able to say what you were in charge of? Like, what were you doing?
Yeah. So it changed. So at the beginning, I was just like a what they call a specialist, like a salesperson, basically in the store.
Yeah.
Then
don't they call them a genius, or is that someone
else? They're the technical. They're the ones that fix your stuff.
Right.
So the specialist is more like, hey, like I'm looking. I don't know which iPhone to buy. Can you help me out? So I would help them out for that. Then I moved into like a customer service role, which doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. But it was basically like if you had a problem, you'd come in and you'd speak to people in orange T-shirts, and they were the ones that sort of said, "Oh, you need to speak to this person." It was kind of like a liaison, like triage in like a hospital. Yeah, exactly. So it was that for a bit, and then when because I started gaining experience and they were opening in new countries, I became like a trainer. So I would then train the new employees that were joining the company.
Oh, okay. So you got it.
And then I
the student becomes the master.
Yeah, and then I became the trainer of the trainers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're basically 2 steps behind Steve Jobs. Like you were
just
that
one step. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're just waiting for him to go.
Yeah. He was making the products. You were like, this is how you use the product.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you thought about it, but let me tell you how it works.
How it actually works. Right. Yeah.
Actually, my first time over here, it wasn't to Hong Kong, but it was to Shanghai. Was to train a bunch of people who were opening. I can't remember the name of the Apple store in Shanghai now. It was one of the Apple stores in Shanghai.
One of those, yeah. So
really?
Wow. Huh. So when you say training, would it be like the technical stuff, as in like here's a manual, but I know you won't read it, so let me reread the manual to you?
It was more training them about the culture of the company and also like how to be like the kind of customers, like how, because the thing is like we would hire people that didn't necessarily know the technical stuff.
Yeah.
But because they were just nice humans.
Yeah.
Because the technical stuff you can learn, but you can't really learn how to be a
personal, nice person.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So we would then, so they would go through a bunch of different training. So if you're a technician, like a genius, you would go through like the global orientation, which was like a 2-week thing, so that you got everything, and then like the technicians would go out and do their special training, the managers would go out and do their special training, and so I would like do the initial. I would be in charge of like the initial 2-week training that would be in like in a hotel.
Well, let's try not to get sued by Apple, but I'm gonna try to ask.
Yeah, go on.
If we, when do they tell you that the old versions slow down on purpose, and then you have to buy like? When do they tell you to tell the customer?
So what you're saying is like in the manual, what does it say? If a customer asks like, why does my battery keep dying exactly after 6 months?
Well, I was gone by that stage. But
So you as insiders know that they are designed to. I'm just going full conspiracy.
Yeah, no.
They're designed to no.
No. There's nothing like honestly like the thing was because the question I would usually get is like, when do you find out a new product is coming out?
Yeah,
it's like we find out when we watch Tim Cook or Steve Jobs on stage. Doing the thing, they're not telling anyone.
Right.
There's like a group of like 50 people that know.
So it's not like when you see like everybody bringing in their iPhone because it has a problem suddenly after the last update.
Yeah. No, I mean, because that's also, it's like, I feel like since social media's taken off, like that's become a thing.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's like 10% of cases. Do you know what I mean? Or it's 10% of people that are using it incorrect. It's usually the fact that they're using it wrong. But they did like with the I can't remember which software update it was. It was like the reason it would slow down or whatever was to protect the battery because the newer operating system.
Are they still paying you, Paul?
No, but it's actually what it is. Like it's just. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like the thing of like there is no conspiracy. It's just that's just what ended up happening.
I'm also like very
they should have told people before. Been like if you want to update to this new software, your battery's gonna drain quicker because it uses aware of because then when it kind of came out, I think they gave people the choice to like, do you want to keep the speed and the battery life is going to drain quicker, or do you prefer the battery? I can't remember. It was like optimized whatever the setting was.
But they wouldn't know. It's actually on the setting, on the update like settings.
It was. It's not anymore. Like I don't think it's a problem anymore.
Also, I love this. Like we have like one of the biggest touring stand-ups in Europe, and we're talking about Apple for 15 minutes.
Exactly, right? That's the whole point. That's what we're all about. Like, well, you discuss jokes? Not really. I just want to know whether or not an Apple update is worth doing or not.
So when did the stand-up come into the equation? You're working for Apple. How old are you at the time? Like when you're training the trainers of the trainers?
At that age, so I worked from Apple from 20 to like 29. So this would have been around
9 years.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So I would have been about, I think I was like 23, 24 when I got the training job.
Okay. And it was stand-up? When did that?
That happened, well, the original of it happened in my last year of university when, because I've been thinking, like, I think something drew me to being in the middle of a crowd.
Okay.
From when I was a kid. Because I remember when I was 12, I used to watch wrestling. At the time, it was
WWF.
At the time, it was WWF.
Actually, we're both.
We all
exactly. Our generation is WWF.
Yes.
Fuck the animals and the pandas. It was WWF.
Yes.
What? Not World Wildlife Fund.
Yes.
It was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, brother.
Yeah. The Rock wasn't doing movies. He was doing the people's elbow.
It was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Shirt every fucking match.
So I loved wrestling, and I remember the school sort of courtyard that we had where you would walk into the locker rooms to put your bag before we went to class.
Yeah.
It was like it was called the quad. So it was like this area where there was like two, like at the end of it there was the locker rooms, but then there was two like grass sections with a path that went through the middle. And I remember when I would walk through that, I had this like image of my mind of like I was walking to the ring basically.
Background track, like audio track in the background.
Yeah, and just like all the audience going crazy. So I was like 12. So
you thought,
So I don't know why I wanted to do that at the time, but that was like something there. So then in my fast forward like 10 years to when I'm at university, 21, and I start watching. It was the time when the BBC. They'd opened up a thing called iPlayer, which is where you could watch back
old
stuff.
Episodes.
Old episodes of stuff online.
Yeah.
And so I started watching a TV show called Live at the Apollo, which
comedians.
So I started watching that, and I was like, I was watching like DVDs of comedians having recorded at like the O2 Arena, which is 15,000 people.
Yeah.
And the thing came back. I don't know, like the visceral thing of like that. And I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was a comedy night at the university at the pub. That was at the university, and there was like 3 comedians, and 2 of them were shit.
Yeah.
And the last one was okay. But I was like, that's weird. The 2 first ones, like they're getting paid to do this, and it's not funny. What I now realize as a comedian is like we weren't the right audience.
Right. So they were actually good. Like in hindsight,
I think so. I think they were doing clubs because they got onto that gig because they were in the circuit and doing well. But that night it was just shit, and so I was like, well, how complicated can it be?
Just told them I can talk.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So then I type into Google like, how do you become a stand-up comedian?
Did you actually? That's so funny.
And so it was like this is when I was in London. So it's like the.
I'm shocked
I've
that
lost
Apple would let you use Google search.
The what's it called?
The Comedy Store?
Hold on. Not the journey. Le parcours in French.
Oh yeah, like the course. Oh, whatever.
Oh, the way to
become a stand-up was like open mic nights. So I went to go see some open mic nights as an audience member with some of my friends, and they were all horrific.
Yeah,
you know? It was the most awkward cringe. Like you're like, oh god, when can we leave?
Yeah.
And then on one comedy night, open mic night, one guy pulled out. He was too nervous or whatever. So my best friend was like, mate, go and ask the MC if you can do 5 minutes. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not. So he went and asked.
Yeah.
And he got me to do 5 minutes.
Oh, man.
Because I'd been thinking about what I would talk about.
So your buddy knew that you had like your
idea.
to like kind
Yeah. So he was like the group of like 4 of us. You know, they knew that it was kind of my like I wanted to do it,
and you were preparing yourself.
And that's why we were going to open mic nights. And so he was like, fuck it, get up. So I did 5 minutes. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad.
Sure.
But it got me.
The bug.
Well, it got me the bug of like, I think I can do better.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then I signed up for a couple. I think I maybe did 10 open mic nights in London. This is in 2009, before I moved to Paris.
Yeah.
Then I moved to Paris with Apple. Work takes over. I get promoted a couple of times in like the first year, and I don't do stand up for like 3 years.
Yeah.
So my official start is like 2013.
Okay.
Even though I had like those 10 open mics 4 years previous. But so 2013 is when I start. I emailed my friend Sebastian now, because he was the only person doing English comedy, similar to you guys in Shanghai when I came over the first time.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, like I'd love to do 5 minutes. Like this is me back being like, I've performed at the Comedy Store in London. You know,
I will give you the honor of having me.
Exactly. Like I've done all these gigs in London. The Comedy Store was like the Gong Show or whatever. But I performed at the Comedy Store in London. So he was like, yeah, you come and do 5 minutes. So the 6th of January was on 2013 was my first 5 minutes. In Paris. And then I did some English stuff, and then
what kind of show was that? Was it a big show, small show?
No, it's like
club show,
maybe like 50 people.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a club show where there was a few of us on the.
That makes sense.
Showcase, shorts,
And then, you know, on one of the nights there was a French comedian doing it in English. He was like, "Oh, I run this other night.
Went down.
Come and do it in French if you want to do it." So then I started doing it in French, and it kind of ballooned from there, basically.
It's one of those things that you did that you can't connect with this person, and that just began the whole journey.
Yeah, as it always does. Like that's how, you know, that you kind of like the comedy thing is a very relationship based.
Of course,
it's like, you're on my night. Well, why don't you come on my night?
Yeah.
You know, and then on my night you meet somebody else who runs the other show across town, and they're like, oh, why don't you come over for that? And then that, you know, at some point you meet somebody who's like, oh, can you open for me at this big venue? And you're like, oh fuck, I get to do 300 now.
Wow.
What, 300 people? I remember the first time I was actually opening for Bunaimin.
Funny.
So he introduced me on a show. One of the funniest jokes, obviously, we're doing it in French, and he's like, "You're right. Your next comedian comes from a country where it rains so much. When you look at your app and it tells you the temperature, it's not the temperature of the air; it's the temperature of the water that's falling from the skies, all the way from England." Let's give it up for Paul Taylor.
Nice.
So I did my set. And he was like, cool, do you want to open for me? And he was at the time doing a show at a 300-seater place called the Apollo in Paris. So that was like my first sort of big
10
show.
years ago.
Yeah.
No, this was more. This would have been in 2014. So 11 years ago. And it was amazing to do like a show in such a big venue. And then it just, you build relationships, you keep going, and then it's like, all right, cool, I have to build a 1 hour show. Let me try and figure out this bilingual thing. So I did the show in both languages, where most of the people said it's not a good idea because French people don't speak English enough. And you're cutting your audience in half.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, but maybe it's unique enough that people will come. And thankfully, at the same time as I launched like my 1 hour show, I also had a video that went viral on.
That was going to be my next point
on YouTube.
So you have the Canal Plus video is the La Bise, right?
So the before Canal Plus, so Canal Plus is like the HBO of France,
right?
But before them, so I did. This was before, obviously, Instagram Reels and TikTok. We were all watching videos, you know,
on
horizontally.
YouTube. Oh yeah.
As they're meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. 16:9 at best. Yeah.
And so I had made with a friend of mine. It was part of my thing that I did on stage. I was talking about how the French say hello and goodbye, where they kiss on the cheek. And as an English person, it's very awkward because I didn't know how many kisses you're supposed to give. Which side of the face you start on, because depending on the north or the south, it's all kind of very weird.
Wait, so you had that, like, you had I imagine it's a sketch group of sorts. It's called French Fried? Or
no, that was just that was my like closing bit on stage, was like how the French say hello and goodbye. It was like this whole thing. And
I saw you do it in Shanghai, and I was explaining it to somebody the other day. Right. It was so funny because it's so drawn out.
Yeah.
And so long. So like you're kissing like everybody in the front row.
Yeah, I'd be like, if this was a house party in France, I would go down to the audience and be like, mwah, mwah, bonjour, mwah, mwah, bonjour, mwah, mwah. Right. And I'm like, oh, but then if you go to the fridge and get a drink, you then have to cheers everyone individually. Cheers, santé, santé, santé. And then if it's someone's birthday, you're like, oh, joyeux anniversaire, mwah, 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 mwah. And then if you have to leave the house, then you're like, all right, bye, mwah, 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 mwah. It was just like so I would do like that to the front row. Yeah. So anyway, my friend who runs a thing called French Fried, it was like the Kung Fu Comedy Club, but the Paris English speaking night. Okay, he was like, can we make a video of that? Yeah, not of that specifically, but it would be cool to make a video to get more audience into the room. So I was like, and this was before people were filming.
Oh, so just filming your set online, not to do a sketch.
No, this was before anyone was filming any sets online. Okay, right. Before any of the people that you know who you see their clips. No one did that.
You didn't know about subtitles and everything, like just whatever.
No, and no one, you couldn't afford to bring in a camera that cost, no one was doing it. I feel like I'm a dinosaur saying this, but this is like 10 years ago.
Yeah, just 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
And so now, obviously, if I was to do it again, I'd film it on stage. But we were like, and I'm a huge fan of films, and I'm a huge fan of like one take shots. So I was like, I've got an idea, because I'm talking about French house party. Like, why don't we film that whole bit? Like, I'm doing it as if I'm talking to the camera stand-up wise. But let's film it in one take. So we did it. We walked through a bar, and I was explaining a thing, and then there was a table there where I would go, I do the exact same thing as I did in my show.
To the front row,
but it was filmed in like a one take thing, whatever, and it blew up. It got like 1 million views in a week. 1 million views on YouTube at the time.
That was crazy. Yeah, YouTube 1 million views.
Well, even like YouTube 1 million views now, I think is.
It is. Yeah, compared to TikTok.
But this is like your going viral moment. This is you becoming famous moment.
Yeah,
correct.
In France. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Well, even like it made it, because what happened was 6 weeks before that, the terrorist attacks happened in Paris, where they went in and shot a bunch of people at the theater.
Charlie Hebdo thing?
No, this was the Bataclan one. Where they tried to blow up the Stade de France. It was horrific. So France was like in a really down mood, and then 6 weeks later, this video comes out where I'm making fun of the French. And like it got onto BBC News, it got onto like CNBC, like this English person making fun of the French.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So it kind of popped, and then that's when the French TV company got involved and were like, do you have any more of these videos? I'm like, no, but I can. Like, let's
make it.
And so that turned into a series called What the Fuck France, which was basically the same concept of me talking to camera, being like, hey, here's something I don't understand about France. Here's the 3 reasons why. And so we did.
But you're also doing it in French and English.
It was mostly in English, but French subtitles. But if I was speaking to a French person in the video, I'd speak to them in French.
Which is really cool, because that means that you can appeal to the French audience easier. That's amazing. And then so from there, you now have your own TV show, pretty much, even if it's like a sketch show.
Yeah, it's like So I did that for like a year and a half. All the while I'm doing my shows at the weekend. So it was just the coincidental timing of it both. Like it wasn't enough manufactured. Like now you would manufacture it. Now the strategy is like
we'll put a video up now, so that's goes viral. We
you put the clips online, and then you do your show, and then everyone's kind of doing that because that's accidentally that's what I found. And it worked really well. So that year was pretty crazy, and that was the year that I came over here. In 2017.
Into Asia. So you're now, like, what level are you at in terms of like draw inside France? Like when you're touring inside France?
So the interesting thing, and it's like kind of my dilemma in life right now, is like it feels like I was riding a wave for a bit, and it feels like the waves disappeared, and it feels like no one gives a shit.
Right.
Yet I'm selling more and more tickets and bigger rooms.
Right.
Like as I said earlier on, like I finished my last show at the Arena in Paris, which is like 5,000 people. And then when I go,
was that like easy to sell?
It wasn't easy, but it wasn't like sold out in 2 minutes or anything. But it was.
But it was like, it felt like, how it is. Like sometimes when you really push. This one, it felt like like you were happy with how how you got to the sellout.
Yeah, for sure. And then like around the country, usually I'm in like 1,000 or 2,000 seat theaters. So the numbers say that like more and more people are coming to the shows, but the overall feeling, because I'm not doing the TV stuff anymore, and because it's like I feel like in France anyway, I don't know how it works sort of over here, it feels like someone pops and they're like the hot shit for like a year, and then somebody else pops, and then somebody else pops, and you're just they've forgotten you. Exactly. Like I guess the general media or the general industry are like, oh yeah, that was a thing. But then somehow through online community, like you're still bringing more and more people. Like the show that I'm doing here has more people than the previous time I came, and the same with the Australia tour that I just finished. There were more people coming to all of those shows. But it's I'm not in the. What's it called? The zeitgeist?
The hot star that everybody tells comedy. Let's get this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like and then I feel like people pop, and then you pop, and then you just maintain. Like the goal is to maintain whatever you've got. Like
that's the hardest part, right? To maintain it.
Well, I mean, a couple of things here. One is that I was rewatching Jim Jeffries' special recently, Alcoholocaust, and he talked about how he's like depressed or whatever, but he talked about how the concept of dreams. He goes like, I have made it further than any point that someone from my looks or intellect should go.
Yeah.
And his punchline is like, you know what I'm going to do tonight? Cry myself to sleep. And he talks about like his journey. He's like, oh, when I started, I was like, oh, I deserve this. No, I deserve this. Yeah. Now I'm not on TV and I'm fucking depressed and I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like similar, not necessarily obviously same extreme, but like, it's like isn't it like a symptom of like someone getting bigger in the industry?
Probably, I think so. The thing that
it's like we're never happy with where we are.
No, and the question that I get like a lot is like, oh, what's next? And I'm like, there is no. This is next. Like this is like, if I get to do in theory, like what I should be doing, what I should be saying is like, I'm doing this tour. This is amazing.
Yeah.
The next is to be able to keep doing this.
Yeah.
But there's always somebody who's further.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, higher up, whatever that means.
One. Am I going to go for the
so you're like, so I think that's. But what you're saying is right. It's like that my initial dream or my initial thing was like, can I earn money doing stand up? In Paris, in front of 50 people. Right? But then that happened, and then so I'm just making up new shit.
But that's what everything, man. I mean, like, for example, if you look back at 10 years ago, as you said, 50 people would have blown your mind already. Like, they came to watch me, right?
Yeah.
Now 50 people are like, that should be day one sales minimum.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, the audience themselves look at you like, is that the goal you're aiming for? That's way too low for you.
Yeah.
You're like, but that was pretty good already. Like, no, but you shouldn't be that. You're like, I shouldn't? Okay.
Yeah. Well, because from an audience perspective, like everyone in the entertainment industry, it's like if you're not famous, like the first person, people not in the industry will be like, oh, are you like well known? I'm like, what does that even mean though?
I don't know.
Like,
people know me.
I mean, if 1,500 people are coming to my show, I guess that means well known, but you're not going to see a newspaper article about me. I mean, back in the day you would, but now it's just like I'm, we're having lunch. Because this is the other thing, is like, okay, you go, all right, well, what's the next step? Bigger theaters. What's the next step? TV show. What's the next step? I'm in a film, whatever. But then I'm very conscious of the fact that if I get, if you see like a Ricky Gervais, for example, you go, cool, but if I become that, we couldn't have had lunch today in the place that we had lunch.
Exactly.
You just can't do that anymore.
Just get mobbed and then it's just like,
we couldn't even do this because the manager.
The manager like, hey, why are you doing it for free, you dumbass?
Yeah,
and
or
then,
like the manager and is talking then to the agent who's talking to the thing, and then like even though we know each other, then it's like, oh, because someone's taken over my social media, so you can't get in touch with me anymore because there's my fucking community manager's like, who's this Mohammed guy? Do you know what I mean? Like it would be
you lose control of,
and I
like,
don't want that either. Do you know what I mean?
You don't want that.
Exactly. I mean, I'll put it this way.
You don't want to like your friends like when like you might have not even known that I'm here until like I reached out to you. You might forgot it, which is fine. But like we didn't even communicate, as you said, because you're like, and you would have missed out on catching up with an old friend or whatever. Because of all these layers. I was watching the Avicii documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you watched it.
Is that recent?
It's very recent. It's like last year or earlier this year.
Because there was a documentary, I feel like 10 years, just after he died, there was a thing that came out that I watched.
No, this is a new one.
Okay.
And it's honestly, it's celebrating his life more. And it's a lot of recordings that he has done with his own voice. But one of the things, pretty much the biggest thing that stood out for me was basically what we're saying. He said he thought he made it once he stopped worrying about how much the cab is to the next gig.
Yeah.
And he said right after that moment, it was all the same.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
But that's the same with everyone.
Yeah.
Like even Bill Gates said, "What the burger tastes the same." You know,
Yeah.
as in after a while, you're like, "This is the same burger, dude."
Yeah.
I could have $1 million in my bank account, it's still the same damn burger. And I agree with you on that because like that's the problem of someone that's in it versus people around. Like, why wouldn't you want to do these big theaters? I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome, but there's a price to pay, which is if I'm doing those theaters, I have to be at a level of that, and then I've got people mobbing me. For example, like let's say Kevin Hart, he's huge, right? He can sell out easily like that. However, he also, like you said, can't just walk down the street, but like, all right, I'm just going to go walk. Like, no, they're taking photos of you.
Yeah.
What's he wearing? What's he doing? And then at the same time, you make a tweet. You get in trouble immediately because the world's watching you. Every word matters. Whereas, like, let's say if you said something, the chances of them getting offended so much that you're on the news is not as high as
no one cares because the news is gonna be like this half-famous comedian
trying too
from
hard
a country on the other side of the world has said something. No one gives a shit.
Yeah,
like it's and that's it's kind of a sweet spot to be in. It's because I see obviously my wife who works with me as well, but then she's already she already feels awkward. When we both go out of the house together and we go to the supermarket, whatever, because she's like, if somebody spots you, like, I don't want people to think, oh, Paul Taylor's with this fat ugly bitch, because she thinks bad of herself like that. I'm like, no one's thinking that. Don't worry about it. But so it's already affected her. And then like my daughter who's at school, like I don't want it to, she's already gonna get made fun of in France because she's half English. First of all, it's like, oh, you're English, blah blah blah, France, England, whatever. But then also it's like, oh, your dad's not funny. So I don't want her. It's just like this weird.
So you're conscious of all of this as well as you are like thinking of your career. Like, would you not take an opportunity, like a big opportunity? Easy for us to say, assume here, all hypothetical, but would you actually, like, let's say you're offered a movie that would put you on a household name in France. Would you be conscious of all of this when you're making this decision?
Probably not.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like the thing is like, as much as I'm like, I don't want that life. Like if it come, like I feel like if it happened, no one's knocking on my door right now. But if they were, then you just gotta go fuck it. You only live once. Like what?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like.
But you always wonder, like, but what if, if I did, you never know, and your whole life, right?
Yeah.
I think that's, again, one of those things that you have to think, okay, I believe, I read a book somewhere where this guy that used to be on the Beatles, Peter something, right? He was in the Beatles. He got kicked out.
The original drummer,
Yeah, the original drummer, right? And his whole story is that he got depressed and unhappy, and, it's the subtle I'm not giving a fuck, that book, yeah. So basically, he talks about him getting kicked out, and initially he was really upset, but eventually he actually found out that all the problems that the Beatles had, he's like, you know what, I'm glad I'm not in that band. I actually enjoy my family, and I'm very happy there, you know? And I think that's one of those things where, honestly, it's. I find the more I do, the more you're like, you know what, it's at both ends. When you work with, let's say, rich families, rich people, they've got their own problems, because like now everywhere they go, they have to make sure they're wearing Gucci's and stuff, and here I just put on whatever I want to wear.
Exactly.
And I think that's the issue is that. But I agree with you on it, like, but you're kind of like, but what if I never do it? I'll always wonder what it's like.
Yeah.
So it's that leap of faith. Same with the comedy, man. Like, if you didn't take that open mic spot, it could have been very different.
Yeah.
And I think as comedians ourselves, a lot of our job requires us to take those leaps of faith, even with the joke. We're like, well, I'm just going to say it and see what happens.
Yeah.
So it's in our nature. It's in our nature to like be like, if it comes, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, we've always joked to my wife. We're like, oh yeah, we'd love a house in Corsica, which is like an island off of France, where she spent all her summers as a kid because her grandfather was Corsican. But it's like it's one of those things where like the place costs like $3 million or whatever. She's like, oh, all you need to do is like a film. If you do a film and you're like a main character in a film or whatever, then we could do it. I'm like, but but then we half joke about it. Like I've been in a couple of films in France, but they're like just stupid small roles or whatever. But it's a really fascinating dilemma.
But it's so interesting also, like, for a listener or someone watching this or listening to this, looking at your life from the outside. Like, I actually just pulled up your post that you posted a few days ago. About 10 years ago, you quit your dream job from Apple to become a comedian, and you're now selling out shows in Australia, New Zealand. In 2015, you would have never thought you would be performing to thousands of people outside the world. And this is 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And cut to you now going like, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like, someone watching this, like reading this, would be like, "This is amazing." This guy's like living the dream. He's like the most successful, and then like, I don't know.
Well, that's always like the customer facing stuff.
Yes.
And like what's going on internally, because people, most people don't give a shit. Like, like what's going on behind the scenes. And so like some of the stuff is interesting. The behind the scenes where you go, I'm not obviously no one has the perfect day, but that's like when I was in finishing off the Australian tour and even coming here now, I'm just like trying to remember that as much as I hate like some of the background shit that goes on, that like drives me crazy, that ultimately I'm very lucky to be able to be in this apartment right now in the middle of Hong Kong on a Tuesday afternoon before I do a show this evening. Like I'm getting paid to do this, like to be here. So like,
you're not getting paid to do this one, but
no,
as in like you're
am I not?
Here,
Oh, you told me we were.
Have you never worked with Mohammed?
Now you're finding out.
That's why you paid for lunch.
Yes.
Okay, now I get it.
Yes.
So like I'm in a very privileged position as well. But then you just have the demons in your head going, wow, could it be better? Am I doing the right thing?
That's what I was asking you, because like you're in a bigger, like I guess like whatever, a few steps ahead of me. I'll speak for myself. Don't you think it's just like a symptom of the industry anyway? So. Because it seems I'm thinking exactly the same. Looking at you, I'm like, I wish I could be. And you're like, I'm like looking at you, and you're like, well, I can be. I wish I could.
Yeah. So, I'm sure even Ricky Gervais has the same thoughts about like
where the fuck would he go?
He's probably looking at you like, I want to be in Hong Kong. What the hell, man? Paul Taylor's doing that one day.
He's thinking like, oh shit, I wish I can just have lunch in Hong Kong.
Well, there you go. So I think well, maybe that's it. Maybe that's you aim, you get bigger and bigger or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever getting bigger means. Do you know what I mean? Like in theory, it's just like if you're well known, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And then when you're at that stage, you go, fuck, I really wish I could just
want to
have lunch with my friend at the place that we used to like 15 years ago, but I'm gonna get mobbed if I do that. So
you have to have the kind of money where you could book up the whole place.
Well, I just listened to a podcast with Ed Sheeran, who had to build. Well, he chose to build in his back garden in England like a pub, like a proper like
really
60-seater pub.
Yeah.
Because he was saying that like for a while when I would come back to this little town where he grew up, he'd go out with his friends at the local pub, but then the media got a hold of it, and so he would get mobbed, and his friends were like, "Dude, all I want is to have a beer with you. Like, I don't want to be here like when people are taking photos. Like, and so he built a pub in his back garden to invite like his friends and close family and whatever, so they could still have the thing, but not have the paparazzi or people being like, "Oh, can I take a?" But I think that's he's touring the world doing these stadium shows.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
He's not like he is just show. I don't even know I can't even imagine. Well, I can imagine because I've watched the Pink documentary where she was traveling with her kids.
Oh yeah.
And they finish the show and then they go back to the hotel and she's looking after the kids. She's mum again. As soon as the show's finished.
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre, but it's really normal. It's like when I've been away from home for like 2.5 weeks, so I get home on Saturday. And Sunday's Mother's Day in France. So on the Saturday...
You're just dad now.
Yeah, so on Saturday, jet lagged, I have to figure out how to get my wife out of the house because I've bought her some presents from here, like a card that I'm going to have to get my daughter to make the card to be like, right, draw the card for mummy. It's Mother's Day, blah, blah, blah. We've also got like a friend's, birthday, like one of my daughter's friends' birthdays on the Sunday.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's an intense weekend of just like, all right, I'm back to being
full dad mode.
I'm back to
the duties.
But I think that's also like, because I don't know who said it, like some famous comedian or whatever. You were also talking about like how, it was Jim Gaffigan because he has 5 kids.
Yeah.
And he talked in many interviews about how much his kids think he's lame, which is really very grounding. And to them, he's just like this older guy or whatever. He makes like whatever jokes.
Yeah,
and it's actually cool looking at you as like a young dad or looking at him talking about it. It's like it's really like it counters all like if it gets in your head a little bit. And you go back and your daughter's like, well, you gotta sit on the floor and draw with me now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, but this like paparazzi were don't care.
Well, and that's like I feel like it's more of a thing that we need as comedians as well is to still live life and because that's what we talk about, right? Yeah. And the thing in France, what's kind of weird is like the famous comedians over there, they're like proper stars. And they behave like stars as well. They dress too nice to be on stage.
I can't relate to that.
They're getting their like Mercedes vans to pick them up with their fucking with the bodyguard. It feels like they're a movie star, and of course a lot of them do movies as well. But you're just like, dude, like what are you how do you relate to the person who's from the random town in France and make fun of yourself when you're dressed like that?
Yeah, you're a bit too good for them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny you mentioned Jim Gaffigan often because he even like Louis C.K. because he had 2 daughters, and it was like, at some point it's like it's real life because you used to have to go to school and drop your kids off, and then you still have to interact with the teachers or the other parents.
Yeah, at some point,
you still have to go to like the end of year dance thing.
The prom and all
and then so you're interacting with other parents and it's awkward. It's just like you have to you
get grounded over there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, but that also I understand if you're a musician or if you're an actor, like you don't want to do that, nor do you need to, like, because no one knows who you are. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because no one knows who you deeply. But as comedians, we share our lives.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about, the other day I was, doing this and that and the other. If your other day doing this, that, and the other is
school,
yes, at school it's relatable. But if it's like, I was at this award ceremony, blah blah blah, everyone's like, all right, mate, calm it down.
Here,
exactly.
Yeah, you kind of lose that. Yeah, as you said, like you can't relate to that because the person buying the ticket is like an average person, right? So if you lose that touch of like, how can I relate to the audience, then it's kind of over. And we know a lot of examples of that, like famous comedians who now talk about stuff that like you as a regular viewer, you're like, what the fuck is he on about?
Yeah.
Like he's like, are you talking about like rich people problem, famous people problems? It's not relatable anymore. And that's not how you started. Like when you look at Seinfeld, like as much as I like him, like back then, like 30, 40 years ago, and it's like, have you ever noticed this and that? And in his last couple of specials, it did feel a little out of touch.
Yeah.
It did feel like, he's talking about like, you seen like whatever the homeless people or whatever he's making fun of. And you feel like, okay, you're not living the same things that we are living anymore.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Ed Sheeran earlier. I might have mentioned this on the podcast before. I have a buddy back in Shanghai. Ed Sheeran came a few years ago to play the Mercedes-Benz Arena, the biggest arena in pretty much all of China. My buddy Chris, who actually does stand-up as well, he went to school with Ed Sheeran. And
no
he
way.
knew him pretty well.
No way.
Yeah, but Chris is also kind of like, he is very like, I wouldn't say airhead. He's just like not interested in a lot. Like he lives in a very small bubble. And he knows Ed Sheeran very well, and he doesn't know how big his career is at all.
Really?
Right, because to him, it's just Ed, the guy who is like now does music.
Yeah.
For Chris, Ed just does music, right?
It's good, though, to have those people around you, like at Ed's level, to be like, my closest friends are the ones that made me, that I was at university with. They're still my best friends when I go back to the UK, and we barely talk about what I do. Like we shoot the shit as if we're just as if nothing sort of changed.
Absolutely,
because we still can, like we can still go to the pub and we can still do that kind of stuff, and hopefully that'll never change.
Ed Sheeran got in touch with Chris when he came to Shanghai,
right?
And Chris, having no fucking idea how big he is, he goes, "Hey man, I'm doing a gig," and he goes like, "Is it in a pub? Like, do you want me to bring my friends? Like, do you want me to like spread the word around?" And Ed is like, "I'll be fine." And he goes, "Okay, should I buy a ticket to support you?" He's like, "I'll put you on the guest list." And he said it's a Mercedes-Benz Arena, but Mercedes-Benz actually has smaller venues.
Okay.
And Chris went fully convinced it is one of those, like, you say Mercedes-Benz. It's kind of like when you like grow up in London, outside of London, you say grow up in London.
Yeah.
So he goes like, it's Mercedes-Benz. It's probably like one of the shitty bars outside.
Yeah, right.
Goes there, realized he had sold out the arena.
Yeah.
And he still had no idea how big his friend
That's
is.
crazy.
He also asked him if he wants a couch to sleep on. This is amazing. But then, just like to him, it's just his friend.
Yeah.
He's just like, Ed is in town. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I put it this way. The one last thing I shared with you is I remember that idea you said you need $3 million to get that. What's that place in Coquelicus or whatever?
Corsica.
Corsica.
Coquelicus, yeah.
That's what it sounded to me, man. All right, so here's the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need $3 million, but you don't want the fame that comes with it.
Yeah.
My recommendation is this. You have a lot of inside information for Apple that you worked over there.
Yes.
No.
That's the thing, I don't. But
Like, you write a show with a lot of those sprinkled into it.
Yeah.
Have only one short clip that you put online. Apple, like threaten Apple, be like, oh, by the way, I'm going to do this tour. We're already booked on all these places. Now,
and they pay me off.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
And NDA, no one ever needs to know about this. Take that video off. Now you have the $1 million.
Yes.
You're famous. Nobody knows that you got famous.
Exactly.
And then you got the money. You're in right over there, right over there. You're doing that. Your wife's happy. You're walking in the supermarket. They're like, "Aren't you the guy that does the bit about the kissing on the face?" You're like, "Yes." They don't know about the Apple bit. Right? It's a win-win thing. You're still doing shows for, let's say, 5,000 maximum of 50 people.
Yeah.
You're continuing that life. Your daughter thinks you're still lame. Life is good, and you go back home and I'm like, "Hey, how's the couscous? Live in couscous over here. It's pretty good, you know?"
Yes.
Yeah, right over there, man.
That sounds like a good plan.
So I want to ask you the most like probably like annoying and frustrating question to end with. What's next for you, Paul?
The show tonight is next.
Yes. Okay, yeah. By the time this comes out, this is in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we have killed it. You got multiple standing ovations.
Amazing.
You did a crowd surf thing, which was
crowd
crazy.
surf. Had some hookers backstage. Champagne was flowing.
Yeah. It was non-alcoholic for both of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
This tour goes until like the end of next year. Oh, not the end of next year. Sorry, the middle of next year. So like in March.
So we're recording in May. So you're on the road basically.
Yeah, kind of. Like once I'm finished this, I'm back home for 3 weeks, and then it's the US and Canada for like 5 weeks. I come back from that for like the month of August, and then September is like all of Europe, not France, and then January, February, March is France.
The French and this is all.
It's all
100% in English.
Yeah, it's still 100% in English. And then I don't know. I'll either I don't know. It's either I carry on or I do like a second tour with the same show, maybe potentially, or if they're like, oh, it's probably better if you have a new show, then maybe I'll start doing a French show. I don't know. The immediate next is stage. Like it's what I do, and I enjoy.
Just stand up, like
just
write shows, tour.
Yeah, and then if something comes of that, like a TV project. There's the thing is like what's next is really difficult to establish. Like a couple of months ago, I got involved. I was in an episode of Top Gear, but the French Top Gear.
Oh, fun! Okay.
So that was cool. Like I could have never planned for that.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So then
What did you do on Top Gear? Like
I was like, so the French they've just hired 3 new presenters. It's kind of like what the UK went through, where the presenters there was a bit of controversy.
Yes,
so they hired 3 new guys, and one of the episodes is basically the UK, the King Charles has like sent over a person to quality control these 3 to make sure that they're. So I put them through a bunch of challenges. To make sure they're apt to host the French Top Gear.
Oh, that's cool. Obviously, you're in such a unique position as an English guy, like living in France, speaking and being an entertainer. That's super cool.
So, and that's kind of the thing where 6 months ago, you could have never. I could have never gone, oh, my next thing, mate, I'll want to do a Top Gear. It's like somebody called me, a contact from a contact. He was like, we're filming Top Gear next week and we really want you to be in this episode because we've got an English thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's the show that I grew up with. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's, I think, like, to answer the question, like, the what's next is whatever happens.
Yes.
Like, I'll keep doing my thing, which is stand up and doing the online stuff. And whatever comes of that, comes of that. If I'm doing this in 20 years, like ultimately I'm happy.
Yeah.
And then if other stuff comes of it, whether it's film, TV, hosting, whatever it is, like it's just added bonus basically.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. This was amazing.
A couple of things. One is, how do people find you online? And 2, we're about to record the Patreon, but we'll do the how do people find you online first.
Online, you have to type in Paul Taylor and then comedy, because there's so many Paul Taylors. That there's like a jazz musician. There's a dance company called Paul Taylor. So it's Paul Taylor Comedy.
Are you the most famous one?
I think it depends on the region. Like if you type in Paul Taylor in Europe, I think I'm probably the first one that comes up.
Right.
Over here, it's probably the dance company, because I think
you just like search Google Paul Taylor.
Google, but because
just Paul Taylor.
You might have already Googled me.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's in the history. Yes.
Wait, can you do can you do
incognito?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, let's do it. Okay,
let's
you can tell people. So where else?
All of the social media stuff: TikTok,
Paul
Instagram,
Taylor comedy,
Paul Taylor comedy, Paul Taylor comedy. On all of the things.
Okay, so we're googling Paul Taylor on. There you go. And you are it's in Chinese as well.
Wow.
Vivek, can you read this? You are that.
Yeah.
What is it?
保羅泰近 Oh, 保羅泰近 I think, yeah. 保羅泰近
That's amazing.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Oh, look, there's Paul Taylor Italia. That's the clothing brand. Paul Taylor.
Okay, so
all right, I'm still number 1. That's good.
That's
okay,
pretty good.
Nice.
Very
okay,
cool.
Not bad. Incognito.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so on the Patreon, did I tell you we do Patreon? It's like 15 minutes.
Great, I love it. I'm on Patreon as well. Oh, you can find me on Patreon.
There you go.
Yeah.
What are you doing on Patreon?
Well, so I used to do like a live every Monday. So I'd sit in front of.
Oh, you would have a beer. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I would do like an extra hour for the Patreon crew. Now I've stopped doing the live stuff. I do just like a little exclusive behind the scenes videos where I'm like, hey, I'm on tour, whatever. Like, and I chat to them.
And how do people find? We'll put all of this in the show notes.
Patreon.com/Paul Taylor.
Great. Okay. So on the Patreon, I want to like pick on something that we talked about over lunch. The Dave Chappelle thing made me crack up.
Yeah.
So you have had to open for him a few times in Paris.
Yeah.
And you kept.
That sounds like I was forced. Like you've had to open for him.
Guess to say. Yeah.
I mean,
begged you. Yes.
So Chappelle would like you to open a merde.
Oh la la.
Not on Tuesday.
No, there's a club with 50 people that need me.
Mercedes-Benz arena my ass.
But the funny thing, like when you're telling me over lunch, a few times you try to do this thing when you like want to hang out with him, and somehow every time it just went wrong.
Yeah.
And it made me laugh. But there's also some information that we should probably not do it. Anyway, so I think it's safer on the Patreon.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Is that how you're promoting the Patreon?
Correct.
Like, here's my Dave Chappelle story.
Yes, exactly.
You guys know what's up, man. I like it. Good work.
Of course. So we're gonna go on the Patreon for your Dave Chappelle story, which is very, very entertaining. So join us on the Patreon, patreon.com/ohopod. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it.
Would love to have you here next time you're on.
Because my friend yesterday told me there's two ways in Cantonese to say thank you. One is it being given to you. One is like
唔該and 多謝.
What's the first one?
唔該.
Is that what I would say now to say thank you?
No. If you were speaking Cantonese, you wouldn't say thank you at all.
Oh, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Like much better.
Yeah, they did nothing for you that you have to thank them, man.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, you did. You invited me onto the podcast.
No, you could tell me. You wouldn't tell the camera then.
Oh, because them. Okay, yeah.
You see, like, so the
well, I
transaction.
said to you that,
yeah, you can see that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but then again, with the poor
Thank you
accent,
for
I don't feel the sincerity over there.
Thank you for watching. I don't know.
No, it's all good. I think you would go with like 多謝, as in like thank you so much.
Okay.
Like I didn't really owe you anything. I didn't give you something where I shouldn't have had. Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so you just look at your middle camera here and go.
Yeah.
What am I saying?
多謝.
多謝.
All right.